Hey everyone, so I haven't posted anything in about 6 months. Apologies for this. A lot of things happened in my life during that time. I'm not going to review them all here, but essentially I left Luxembourg in December last year and I moved to Gijón. Usually when people hear Gijón, they're like, where is this again? And that is perfectly understandable because Gijón is a relatively small city located on the north coast of Spain, very close to Oviedo in the center of the autonomous region of Asturias. And if you ask me, wait, David, why in God's name would you leave Luxembourg to move to the north coast of Spain? Well, the answer is quite simple. I think I found Luxembourg to be just a little bit boring. Of course, the living cost was a major factor too, but just before I left, I was offered to carry on with my work for better money, but I still did not want to do it. And why did I move to Gijón? Well, most of my girlfriend's family is from here, so that's one thing. And I do believe it's important to be close to your family if you have that chance. And second of all, I think the north coast of Spain is one of the most underappreciated regions of Europe, and nobody's talking about it, and I don't know why. A couple of years ago, I came to Asturias and I quickly fell in love with it. But first things first, why did I leave Luxembourg? Well, in order for you to understand me better, you need to know that I worked in Luxembourg as an architect. That is what I studied. That is the industry I want to develop in. So it had a huge impact on my decision-making process. Most people who consider moving to Luxembourg just look at that average salary and they imagine they'll make the same money when they arrive there, but that's not the case. This number is so misunderstood. Not because it's wrong, but because the country is so small. And I'll explain what I mean by that. In a well-balanced economy, say Belgium or Scotland, about 5% of the population works in finance, which offers well-paid jobs. Well, in Luxembourg, this number jumps to 20%, since finance is hands down the biggest industry there. Another, let's say, 20% work in the European institutions, such as the European Parliament, the European Court, the European Central Bank, and they all have well-paid jobs. Of course, not the trainees. I do feel for the trainees, and honestly, it drives me crazy. They trick people. They trick people to work for 6 months as trainees, making very little money in Luxembourg. And people agree because they are young and they want to have a good career, and they think they'll be given the chance to work in the European institutions full-time. But that happens only to maybe less than 5% of the trainees. Please don't fall for that. If you want to be a trainee in the European institutions, go to Brussels or somewhere else. Of course, you still can do Luxembourg, but just be aware that the chance of carrying on full time is minimal. Anyway, my point being is that when you add the IT sector, you realize that more than 50% of the people in Luxembourg have very, very, very well-paid jobs, which is a very unsustainable margin for bigger countries. Of course, all this wealth transitions down to all service-based jobs, such as architects, lawyers, physiotherapists, customer assistants. But just be aware that maybe with very, very good qualifications, if you're not in the right sector, so to speak, you might be quite disappointed by your salary. It might not even come close to the average one. The minimum salary for people with master's degree is about 2,600 euros net, which is similar to what I was getting paid. I did not know French, so my salary was about to be reviewed in a year's time based on my proficiency in French. So French is super important if you want to succeed in Luxembourg. Me and my girlfriend were renting a small studio close to the city center for about 1,700 euros. Commuting from Belgium, Thionville in France, or Trier in Germany is super common and relatively convenient. Yada yada yada. The bottom line is that paying rent in Luxembourg is quite painful and you have to do it. But eventually you start feeling very pressured to make a decision about your life, whether you want to stay there or not. The other thing that I mentioned as a reason why I left is that Luxembourg was a little bit boring. And if you experience that in your first year there, imagine what it would be like if you just stay there long term. Please don't get me wrong. I loved Luxembourg. I loved my time there. But it is a small country. They don't have mountains. There is no sea or beach nearby. Everything is kind of meh. And it's not that well connected to the other big European cities. When you look at the map, you would think that Brussels is close, but then it takes you 4 hours with the train. So one day plan in Brussels is quite a stretch. And now because I feel bad, I feel like I want to say a few nice things about Luxembourg. Go cycling. It is so cool. Go canoeing. Visit the local wineries. I love their sports centers, especially the Coq. Yeah, I know how it sounds, but it was an amazing training facility, and everything just functions very well in terms of infrastructure, and it will continue to function very well in the future just because everything is built quite recently. Although I did hear they will have some major issues in the future with electric vehicles because they start to be too many, but anyway. If you want to do something else, visit castles. There are so many, and especially Vianden was super impressive. And when you have your 60-year-old manager tell you that you're too young to be in Luxembourg, you start thinking that maybe there are more exciting places where you can live. Most people will disagree, but I'm telling you the truth when I say that 90% of the millennials that I met in Luxembourg did not see themselves living there long term. And it just seems like some of them just get stuck there with life and maybe a good career, but is that someone that you would like to be? And by the way, it is the country in Europe with the highest divorce rate, which is something to think about. But then again, there are people who love everything about it and they're very happy in Luxembourg. So visit it, give it a chance. You never know in life. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it gave you something to think about. I will get back to making videos regularly. If you want to know more about Gijón or Asturias, the north of Spain in general, just comment down below. Cheers!